She so on tell that bitch, like the shoes on flex go. When she walk all up my mama floor, I smell like I'm super like Drake, hanging on my dick and shout the floor. Walking shot my grizzly nose, so big shit can't be. Say that she my bitch, but that bitch ain't even sour. She gon' keep on working it for dollars till the dollars grow. I can't throw no pictures if I ever see my side, bro.
KJ's going to run it again, diving, fumbles the ball, and Chappelle's got it. Tyreek Chappelle in the right spot as he hands it off to Richardson. Here he goes. Wow, can you believe this?
Hello everyone and welcome to Big Game Lineup presented by All Content Entertainment. Week 3 was one to forget for a lot of teams. Alabama, Florida State, Colorado, and Georgia found themselves on the ropes, but still pulled through. Others weren't so lucky like Tennessee and Kansas State. This week will be a new day. We got Ole Miss heading to Alabama, Colorado, and Oregon in a top 20 showdown. And of course, our game of the week, number 6 Ohio State, traveling to South Bend to take on Notre Dame. Logan Caldwell with me as always, Christopher Fanning.
Hello, how y'all doing?
And Anthony Cruz.
Howdy.
All right, we got a lot to go over. We have a lot to go over today. Let's start with our Week 3 recap. Colorado and Colorado State going down to the wire. Ultimately, with Colorado pulling away 43-35 in double overtime. Alabama barely getting past South Florida 17-3, and Florida upsetting Tennessee in the swamp. Which game shocked you the most, Fanning? Where is over with you?
I'm going to say that Alabama was going to score a lot more than 17 against a team that they should have ran up with. Colorado knew that game was a barn burner. I knew that that's a rivalry game. You expect a lot of offense and a lot of defense. But Alabama, I don't know. Ever since the UT loss, they just haven't been the same. And this is probably the start of the fall.
For me, it was more South Carolina versus Georgia. What I saw was everybody was kind of expecting Georgia to be a unbeatable powerhouse, just dominant like they were last season. After watching that, no, absolutely not. They were vulnerable. They obviously have a couple holes that they need to fix. But you're right. Colorado State, barn burner. It was a rivalry. It was personal. So, of course, this was not going to be a blowout, even though we are 24 points. But no. And as you're right, Alabama, I'm still batting 1,000 when I say that was done even before Texas came into town and beat them. It opens. It actually answers a lot of questions for me. Like, we saw Georgia; they're obviously vulnerable, and it makes me wonder, what are we going to see when Georgia plays Tennessee and Florida? I think they're even playing Ole Miss, if I'm not mistaken. Georgia versus South Carolina was the game that I think everybody should have paid attention to. Because I thought that it was going to be a lot easier for Georgia to just beat everybody and go undefeated. And it wasn't like Carson Beck didn't have a good game. 27 for 35, 269. That was pretty decent. But for 20 carries for Dejon Edwards, only 20 carries, 118 yards. You would think you have to be in the 200 range to make an impact, and I didn't see it. But Spencer as well as Carson Beck, 22 for 42. That's just about half, like a 500 completion rating. But yet at the same time, 256 yards per that game with 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder who really is going to come out of the SEC if it's not Georgia. You know, I believe Chris had Tennessee coming out of the SEC, but we saw the loss to Florida, Florida bouncing back after that game against Utah, and Alabama, where we pretty much confirmed that they're done. If they can't beat Ole Miss, then you know who is going to come out of the SEC and go against Georgia in the championship game. You know.
Yeah, but I mean that loss to Utah really didn't do much for Florida. If anything, it
Oh
was a
no.
rust game. It was a rust game, and then now they bounce back, and then they upset Tennessee in the Swamp.
Not only that, but I picked Tennessee because of an old girlfriend. So obviously, I'm a freaking idiot for picking that. But
Yeah.
at the time, I can't pick Alabama. I hate Alabama. I can't stand Alabama.
Mhm.
It's not Alabama. It's their fans. Their fans are like Cowboy fans. Now, before people get mad at me, I am a Dallas Cowboy fan, but I am not that Dallas Cowboy fan.
Right.
It's our year. Every freaking year. It's not. And it hasn't been for 30 years. Alabama, every year. Oh, roll tide. It gets annoying. And their fan base is so toxic and so annoying that anytime they fall, I'm like, yes. But yet somehow they always seem to find themselves in the playoff and getting a title. I don't know. But, I'm still going to stick with my pick of Tennessee. I'm not going to waver from that. Everybody has a bad week. Everybody has a bad week.
Well,
sometimes you win on the bad week, and sometimes you lose in the bad week. And unfortunately, Tennessee just had a bad week, and they couldn't bounce back.
Which brings me to my point. Mac Brown once said after the 2005 season that Bill Parcells called him and told him, "Hey, you're a fat rat about to eat poison cheese." This was the poison cheese week. It was, every team goes through it during their non-conference schedule. They always have that one week where there's a team that you don't expect them to lose, but then the team just comes up out of nowhere and keeps them on the ropes. And then, or even in some worst cases, they upset that team, and it can really derail a team, especially when it comes to their morale and, their confidence levels.
But that's why they play these Division II teams. They're tune-up games. You beat the ever-living crap out of them. It builds your confidence going into conference play. Yeah. That's why they do it. They've been doing it forever.
Right.
So it seems to, and every now and again, you get an Appalachian State who pulls something out of their ass and pulls off a major upset, but we don't get too many of those like that anymore. It happens, but not as often as you'd like to.
Exactly. And with today, every conference is now putting them with other Power 5 conferences because they want to build resumes for the college football playoff, because back then it didn't matter who you played in the BCS era, as long as you were ranked a certain way and then you won and then let everybody else kind of do all the work for you when it came to losing. It's now a completely different time because, like I said, everybody wants to play the big time matchup because they don't want someone to say, well, they didn't play anybody. That's why Colorado
Say not just that, but it's all about the money they get for doing the game too. Money talks straight up.
Well, yeah, with the TV deals, exactly.
Well, anyway, everybody is ready to leave Week 3 in the rearview mirror and continue the quest for the college football playoff. Speaking of playoff quests, our game of the week features a top 10 showdown between Ohio State and Notre Dame in South Bend. Anthony, does a Notre Dame loss keep them out of the playoff race?
Yes, 100%. It's a lot different for obvious reasons, starting with the fact that Notre Dame is a independent team. They don't have a conference championship to gun for the way Ohio State does. If Notre Dame were to beat the Ohio State Buckeyes, Ohio State still has the chance because they still have to beat Michigan State, Michigan, obviously towards the end, and then they have the Big Ten championship. So there's redemption on the path for for Ohio State. Notre Dame, however, one loss and nothing else to really gun for after that. Yeah, they can beat Duke, they can beat USC, but at the same time, that's it. That's all you have on your resume. Ohio State can beat Michigan, beat everybody in their path, win the conference title, and actually jump Notre Dame for the top.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. It's just the strength of schedule. Obviously, Ohio State has a much stronger schedule because they're not independent. They're playing big time teams. Notre Dame, as much as I love my Fighting Irish, they play Navy, who hasn't been good in like fucking forever. They're playing USC, which is they're bouncing back from a lot of allegations like 20 years ago. They're starting to come back, but Notre Dame, if I agree, if they lose, they're done. They'll get a sub bowl game, but they're done. They don't. But at the same time, if they beat Ohio State, and I said this last week, if they beat Ohio State, then they're on the radar. Like, okay, then they're for real, and they've looked impressive every game that I've watched. They've looked the quarterback. I cannot remember his name to save my life, but I think he was a missing piece that we didn't have before, and he's just so impressive. And I don't know. I'm not gonna say this is our year because I don't want to be that guy. But if they beat Ohio State, then maybe, just maybe, you'll hear me say it because that is Ohio State is probably the toughest team they have to play this year. By far,
unless you count USC.
I would put Ohio State above USC. And I'm not a fan of either of those teams, but I do know that Ohio State has always had a very good program, and they're a very strong program. Not that USC is not, but when you play teams like Michigan State and Michigan every year, you come out on you come out on top playing them. It definitely has more value than beating Navy or Air Force or Army or these other teams that are independent that are just not that great. It's not as impressive. But to beat a team like an Ohio State that every year has at least 3 to 5 draftees, sometimes even first rounders that go to the NFL. There's a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. I just gotta wait and see what happens on Saturday.
Right. I mean, even if it was to Ohio State, I mean, they could still make a New Year's Six bowl. It's not the Sugar Bowl. It's like the Fiesta Bowl or even maybe the Peach Bowl. But I don't know. I honestly see them going more towards the Fiesta if they lose, just based on where they're located. And it's going to be a really, really big time quarterback matchup, though. You got Sam Hartman, Notre Dame, Kyle McCord, OSU. Both already at 1,000 yards apiece this season. I mean, if it's a shootout, the Heisman race just goes from like here to like way over here. Just in quarterbacks alone.
Well, Notre Dame and Ohio State, they kick off at 6:30 on NBC. When we come back, Texas looks to start their Big 12 campaign in Waco against the struggling Baylor Bears. Ole Miss looks to be a new favorite to the SEC West, and we'll take a look under the radar. We have this and a lot more coming up on Big Game Lineup. Welcome back to Big Game Lineup. The Longhorns have jumped Florida State for a number 3 spot in the AP poll. It's their highest since the 2009 season. Can Texas stay undefeated before their showdown in Dallas against OU, starting with Baylor this Saturday in Waco? Chris, we'll start with you.
Baylor is not the team it used to be a couple of years ago. They've had a lot of injuries. Games they should have won, they haven't won. UT, on the other hand, is riding that crimson wave after beating Alabama. I'm sorry, but Waco is on notice right now. UT's coming to town, and they're about to kill you guys because if UT doesn't win by more than 3 or 4 scores, it's a disappointment in my mind. And like I said, Baylor is just not the same, and UT is just – although I think the number 3 rating is a little too high. That's just my opinion. I think there may be 1 or 2 other teams that could be higher than them. But this next week when they play OU is when we'll determine if that ranking is if they're worthy of that number 3 ranking. But
we'll see.
I know
Baylor.
Anthony. I know you're a Baylor guy, so I'm curious what you got to say.
Okay, Baylor is in a bum year, to put it mildly. This is not going to go their way. I'll be surprised if they even make 3 victories, let alone 6 to be bowl eligible. Now, I will say, though, is that Baylor is still full of surprises. You saw what they were able to do against Utah. They weren't able to capitalize, but they did hold Utah pretty much down to the very last second. And whether or not they could have won that game, I don't know. But Texas actually a 13-point favorite. It's not as much as you would think, and it's for good reason because I don't think that Baylor will necessarily roll over. I do think that they will somewhat back within the first couple quarters because I don't know if you noticed, but Texas does kind of take its time in both the first, not just both quarters. And so I do see Texas running away with it. I don't think that Texas will cover the spread. Well, yes, I don't think Texas will cover the spread. And then they can run away with this. I do see them beating Kansas the following week before Dallas. And then obviously it's our big down in Dallas. And I don't know if I agree with you about the whole ranking situation. I actually did have Texas above Florida State in the top 10 because of the fact that while, yes, they were slow, they were tied up until the fourth quarter, they still ran away with it. And not only that, it wasn't a shootout either. It was more of everybody was slow that day, even Wyoming. And even for Wyoming standards, that's one thing. But then you got on the other hand who won by only 3 points against the knowledge. So I personally think it's right where it's at, even though I have Michigan at number 1. But think about this though. I can see Texas winning this game by 3, only by 3, again at the last second. I really think Baylor can hold it. I can see them beating Kansas a lot. I could see Kansas and Texas going to the wire. And then I think if Texas holds their own, wins both these games, they actually do have a shot of beating OU.
Alabama traditionally, at least the past 10 years or so, has been a better team than Oklahoma. So by that logic, I think if they can beat Alabama, they can beat Oklahoma.
But even then, Oklahoma's beating their teams by more than 10 points. They've been dominating everybody that they have. I don't really know if they've even played anybody powerful yet, or at least by, with the standards that we have, when it comes to the other powerhouses like Georgia, USC.
I would have to look, but I don't think they really have. I think they've been kind of just scrub teams.
Yeah, I think they have been.
See, I mean, it's different when it comes to Oklahoma. I really think that's a little bit true test in a couple of weeks, and find out even then. Because like you're right, no for sure. Oh, who's even for real? Fact that I don't think they really played it. Anybody.
Yeah, and UT has
on national TV yet.
Already. That's a very valid point. Is that all I've seen are just highlights here and there on ESPN or on my phone. But UT, they weren't prime time for that Alabama game, which it probably should have been. But that they do have that going in their favor. They've been tested already in a game they could have easily lost, and they ended up winning. Same as last year, a game they easily should have won and they lost. So you kind of flip it around there.
Their non-conference was Arkansas State, SMU, and Tulsa.
There you
go. So
there you go. See?
All three of them have a point win, but either way, yes, you're right. It was absolutely nothing. I mean, I really think that Texas will be the first true test, and I don't think people are realizing that with Oklahoma. Everybody is giving Oklahoma props that they're beating these teams by with 60 points on the scoreboard. But it's like, you're right. Who the hell did they play? Texas beat Alabama by 10. Could Oklahoma have done that?
I don't think so. Exactly. One thing you need to think about is the point Chris made is if they could beat Alabama, they should be able to beat Oklahoma. Well, that is true, but we're seeing Alabama on kind of a downhill spiral season. If they lose to Ole Miss, I don't think Alabama is gonna be much more than just a New York Six bowl game.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't even. I mean, if they lose to Ole Miss this week, I mean, I don't see 6. This could be a year we don't even see Alabama in the New Year's at all.
Well, yeah, they could have a season that OU had last season. I believe Texas beat OU 49-0 in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oklahoma had that year too.
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah. And how many out of all the SEC teams during the Nick Saban era, how many teams have we seen beat Alabama more than Ole Miss? It seems like they've beaten them more than any other SEC team.
Maybe Auburn, but
Auburn.
Or no, Texas A&M.
A&M. Well, I think they only beat them twice.
No, I mean Texas seems to be the one that beats them every year, or not every year, but every other year, especially when they play at home. I mean, they just beat them 2 years ago at Kyle Field. They come back to Kyle Field this year, I think.
Well, yeah, and that in the Johnny Manziel game. That's the only one I can remember. But Ole Miss, I believe they beat them.
Every time I think of Alabama losing, I for some reason just think it's either LSU or Texas A&M, at least in the modern era.
See, when I think Alabama losing, I think of the Iron Bowl. I forget
what year it was. I watched that. I think it was 2013. Yeah,
the field goal that went short and they ran it back for 6. Yeah, I love that highlight. That highlight lives in my brain rent free every day. I freaking love it. It's so beautiful.
It gives you goosebumps.
And not only that, but you see the Alabama fans are like,
"Whoa, what happened?
What the hell just happened? We were winning."
And even the Auburn players on the sidelines were like, "Oh my God, that just happened."
Yeah. Actually, no, the game was tied.
It was tied.
It was like a 54-yard field goal, and he was like 10 yards short, and he got it.
He was one.
Deep.
He was one.
Was he one?
He was 1 yard short of that because Chris Davis received it at the 9-yard line of the end zone. They just don't count it.
Yeah, because I remember the guy from Auburn that caught it. He was deep in the end zone when he got it.
He was, yeah.
He just ran down the left side, and he was gone. Like they rehearsed that, like in case they miss a field goal, this is what we're going to do. Like they knew it was coming, which proves my point. The NCAA is rigged, just like the NFL. It's all scripted. Even WWE.
Even commentary was like, missed field goal can be run back. Remember that?
Yeah.
No, well,
And people were like,
I
"You
heard
can't
it
do that."
different.
Like, yeah, you can. A missed field goal and a blocked field goal is still a live play.
Right.
You can run it back. So,
Unless it hits the ground.
of course.
Sorry, guys. Okay, well, Texas heads to Waco to face off against Baylor Saturday at 6:30 on ABC, 6:30 p.m. That is. Meanwhile, in the SEC, Ole Miss looks to take Alabama out of the college football playoff race entirely, while the Tide look to live to fight another day. And after that scare performance in Tampa Bay, Anthony, how confident are you in Alabama coming into this game?
I'm not 1% confident. Now, Alabama can, pull it out of their ass and come back. What's his name? Milton or Milrow? He's coming back. I have no idea why Nick Saban didn't play him last week. I feel like it would have been a completely different result. I honestly think that when it was an easy game, you give the backups a chance to see if Milrow can't do it, who's next. But I don't know. I honestly think that the confidence is very low for Alabama, and I can see Ole Miss actually pulling off the upset. It's like no longer. It's like right now, Alabama's not even worried about this college football playoff right now. It's more they're worried about a spot in the SEC championship game. If Alabama loses this week to Ole Miss, all hell is going to break, especially in the SEC West.
Oh yeah, guaranteed. And the sense of urgency that they're having in Alabama speaks volumes, because other teams, if you're hurting for a quarterback and it's the third week, that, and I know the NFL is a different thing. You don't start seeing that till week 5 or week 6 sometimes. Oh, so-and-so is not doing too well. Put the backup in and see what he can do. But Nick Saban is panicking right now, and I don't think I've ever seen this from an Alabama team that Nick Saban has coached. Exactly. He's on a hot seat, but he's not on a hot seat. You know what I mean? It's like you've been there long enough. You've established your rapport, but yet here you are going, oh crap, what do I do? Like he's in a territory he's not used to, and he's folding his hand even before the real season's even started.
But even then, I didn't think that sitting Monroe was even the thought. Yeah, you lost to Texas, but he's not a bad quarterback. They were neck and neck up until the fourth quarter. So I really didn't see why there was a sense of urgency, especially at the quarterback position, because I felt that Milroe did a decent enough job to keep his starting job. That was really surprising. I have no idea. And then you got, and then if something happens against Ole Miss, I can see Nick Saban pressing that panic button again, bringing out Buckner, and it can fall and crumble really fast. And it could be one of those seasons where Nick Saban just stops and says, "Is this it? Is this literally it for me? Am I officially done as a coach? Is it my time to finally ride off into the sunset?" I don't think Nick Saban will ever get fired from Alabama because of what he's able to accomplish. But I do believe that they will probably say, "Hey, it's time for you to call it, and ride off. You've done enough." I mean, you can't this season cannot take away anything Nick Saban's done throughout his career at Alabama.
Oh no, he's like the Bill Belichick of college football.
Exactly.
Ugh.
Sorry.
Ugh. Sorry.
I mean, he's right. I mean, with all the championship, I mean, what more can you ask from Nick Saban? Even this season is nobody's really gonna hate Nick Saban after this.
No.
Yeah, blame Kiffin.
Blame somebody.
Well, hell, it'd be funny if Nick Saban retires and Lane Kiffin takes his job at Alabama.
Oh.
I don't believe Ole Miss, but hey, crazier shit has happened.
Nah, I've seen reports of rumors Nick Saban might retire after the season. I think it just depends on how the season's gonna go.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't even be for after this game. I mean, I don't think it'll be for any championship at this point. I think it'll just be making bowl eligible one last time, so that way they can at least win it one more time for him.
One last hurrah.
But I mean, I don't know. This is all rumors. This is all rumors and speculation at this point because nobody's really panicking yet. But I believe once this game finally happens, we're gonna have a lot clearer picture.
Yeah, agreed.
Ole Miss and Alabama face off this Saturday at 2:30 p.m. on CBS. Florida State is looking to stay undefeated and stay front runners in the ACC, but first they're going to have to get past the Clemson Tigers in Death Valley. Christopher, is this Florida State's time, or the Tigers still run the show?
I'm going to bring up the obvious fact here is that Clemson's not even ranked right now. They flew right off the radar real quick. So in Florida State, the games that I've actually watched, they've looked really impressive. Their offense looks really good. Their defense seems to like to control the field. I think Clemson was just a flash in the pan. They're done. Once Trevor Lawrence went to the NFL, they really it was a steady decline. But now they're not even the top 25 anymore. So I think Clemson's time has come and gone.
Right. Yeah.
So I think we should all move on from that.
I didn't even notice that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, even then,
Florida State's ranked number 4 right now.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't even expect Florida State to beat LSU the way they did. I honestly thought they were overrated, but then you look at what they were able to do. They didn't really do so well with Boston College, but that worries me, for later down the road because, they still have to get through the SEC. But I do think this. It's like, yes, if Clemson loses to Florida State, Clemson's playing at home, though, which is Death Valley, dude, is a very hard place to play. It's loud. Mm-hmm. It's rough. Florida State's going to have their money's worth this weekend. It would be good for Clemson to beat Florida State because then they get back in the rankings, and then you got another top 25 showdown against Notre Dame later throughout the season. But Florida State, though, is on a roll. I kind of give that edge to them as much as I don't want to because I don't trust it yet. Because when you go from a pretty okay team last season to this now, it's like something's got to give in one way. I really don't see Florida State finishing the season undefeated, and I think Clemson may have something to do with it. And that's just my opinion.
Well, I'm just saying that if Clemson keeps playing the way they're playing the past couple of weeks and Florida State plays the way they're going, I don't see an upset in the future in that game. I see Florida State, beating them by 2 to 3 scores. Right. So I think the Clemson Tigers' time is come and gone.
Well,
I don't know. I still think that Donald Sweet's got one last trick up his sleeve.
Yeah, probably.
Well, they are playing Clemson. They're conference rivals. Clemson, I believe, beat Florida State last year, and I think because of what happened last year, that's why we kind of counted Florida State out if we didn't pick them to beat LSU.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Well, but again, it was an unknown because they weren't necessarily the front runners for the playoff last year, and they kind of made this jump. It's shocking, but at the same time, it's like, is this for real? And I honestly think Clemson is, despite the fact that Clemson's not ranked, I really see Clemson being a true test, especially if it's a road game for the Seminoles.
All right, well, Florida State takes on Clemson at 11 on ABC. When we come back, we're going to take a look Under the Radar, plus our weekly selections presented by Chapo's Lawn Care and Holoffs. This is Big Game Lineup presented by All Content Entertainment. Welcome back to Big Game Lineup. We're going to take a look under the radar. And Anthony, you have TCU on upset alert?
Yes, I do. It's the Iron Skillet game. If anybody knows, it's the battle for DFW, SMU, TCU. They like to go at it every single year. Their prize is a kitchen pan that your mama would fry chicken on. It's one of those underrated rivalries for real. Because, I mean, if you look back at all the success that SMU had back in the 80s, and then you have TCU being like one of those up and comers, last year's college football playoff, and then of course, SMU trying to rebuild back from their glory days, if you will. And if I'm from what I saw, TCU is a 7.5 favorite, but I can give the edge to SMU to TCU because to SMU, excuse me, over at TCU because of the fact of the stakes as a rivalry game, that you want to be the village. And plus, and the fact that I'm still a Baylor guy at heart, so of course I'm never ever gonna choose TCU to win anything, just because I'm me.
All right, and Christopher, what about you?
I'm gonna go right back on the Colorado State game. The fact that they had a 4.9 rating, which is 9.3 million people watched that game, despite it starting at 9:00 here in the Central Time Zone. And what people don't know is that it peaked at 11.1 million from 11 to 11:15. It just that says a lot. Not only about Dion as the coach, but the team in general.
Right.
The fact that they were able to, a year ago, they won one game all year. That's all they did. This year, they won their first three. And me, I am not a Colorado football fan by any means. But I've watched every game, which tells you if the casual fan is watching every game, so is everybody else. And the fact that the ratings were that high for that late of a game, that speaks volumes. And that's just unprecedented. And I believe the previous highest game was a 9.17 million, and that was FSU versus LSU on ABC on Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
So that just impresses me.
Yeah, it's primetime numbers, it's bowl game numbers. Like I said, Deion Sanders is selling the Kool-Aid. He's the cult leader. Everybody's just on this bandwagon. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Lil Wayne, Shannon Sharp, Stephen A. Smith. They're all coming out there to support him. I still believe that kid should be suspended for the Travis Hunter incident. But
I agree 100% on that. Yeah, that was a dirty hit, and yeah. And it's funny that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is, supporting Deion Sanders, but yet back in the day, The Rock played for Miami, who played against Deion. So it's like, I guess, let bygones be bygones, but it's just funny to see two old college rivals be like, oh, well, we can be cool now. I'm
Yeah,
not wearing Florida State numbers, and you're not wearing Miami Hurricane stuff, so let's be friends. But it's Dion. Dion
yeah,
always attracts a crowd, no matter where he goes, and that's just
and he's
how
good.
he's always been. Yeah, no,
He's very good. He's
it,
not stupid. This isn't no public
no,
publicity stunt. This is a guy who knows what he's doing. I mean, did you see the
and not only
practices that they were doing?
yeah, I did. Yeah,
Blasting music in their ears, literally in their ears, like they have speakers on dollies, and they're following the players as they're working the plays. If that doesn't
Yeah.
get Colorado to beat Oregon, I don't honestly, in my opinion.
Not only that, but Dion wanted to win that game, not because it's a division rival, because of the comments the Colorado State coach made prior to that game. Just I didn't see a handshake at halftime or at the middle of the field when the game was over.
I did.
I didn't see it. So they did. Okay, cool.
They did.
But
He
still,
took off his sunglasses, and Shador Sanders was literally standing next to him, kind of staring down the coach of Colorado State. And I was like, "Oh God, this was personal. This was just like rivalry game times 7,000. That was how just crazy it was."
it was a damn good game. I know Colorado there in the fourth quarter, it looked like they were letting it get away, and then their defense stepped up, and it was an impressive game, but also a very impressive win.
Yeah, everybody was surprised about the fact that it was close, but I wasn't. I mean, like I said, it was a rivalry game. The emotions were hot. You know, everything's on the line. I knew it was easy, but I mean, at the end of the day, I still knew Dion and Coach Prime was gonna do something about it.
Yeah, he says he keeps receipts, and he definitely cashed in a couple of them on Saturday for real. Like, here you go.
That's why Oregon is keeping their mouth shut right now.
And that's the smartest thing you can do is just not add few, especially their defense. The defense is going to be like, okay, we're going to come after you now.
All right, and now it's time for our weekly selections presented by Chapo's Lawn Care and Haul Offs. We're going to start off with Oregon and Colorado.
Let's see. I picked Colorado. Gee, why would I not pick Colorado? I'm on that high right now. I am on the high.
It's a high, dude. Yeah, as much as I want to pick Colorado over Oregon, it's just I don't know. This is one of those true road tests for Dion, Shador. I wouldn't say Travis Hunter was there, so that's what's probably gonna really bring them down. Is really that they don't have their 1-2 punch for the next 3 weeks. So actually, I'm gonna go ahead with the safe bet and choose Oregon.
Yeah, those are some big games Travis Hunter's going to miss. Oregon, and I believe, what's after Oregon? Ohio State or USC, I believe he's going to be out for that game too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he won't be there.
Damn.
All right, UCLA and Utah.
I think
go ahead.
I think Utah's going to pull away with this. I don't think UCLA is going to be a real threat to Utah. It's going to be an interesting Pac-12 ride. I think after this these past 3 weeks, I think Utah's in a safe position to make their way to the Pac-12 championship. It's just a matter of whether it's Washington or USC. So I'm going with Utah.
Yeah. 100% agree. I picked Utah. Utah's looked pretty good from the highlights that I've seen, and I see no reason why they can't just walk all over the Bruins.
Yeah.
All right, Oregon State and Washington State.
I only picked Oregon State because they're a higher rank. I'm not gonna lie. They're 14. Washington State's 21. I mean, I'm not very good at math, but it tends to be if you're the higher rank, you've got or the closer you are to one, the better the team you are. So, with that being said, I definitely picked Oregon State.
I'm just really just amazed to see how many like ranked teams there are in the Pac-12. Like, like it's like every week at least we're gonna get like one, ranked matchup of some kind, whether it's top 25, top 15, or top 10. But yeah, I'm going with Oregon State.
All right, Iowa and Penn State.
Ooh.
Damn. That should be a good game, despite the rank. But I definitely picked Penn State over that. Penn State seems to be the better team. They got the tradition going in their favor despite a couple of lapses. But yeah, I definitely went with Penn State on that one.
Yeah, I'm going with Penn State too. They're just too strong. Iowa may stick it to them the first couple quarters, but I think once halftime rolls around, I think they'll run away with it. Okay.
Agreed.
All right, Clemson and Florida State.
I mean, we've already talked about this, so to reiterate, I'm picking Florida State to beat Clemson at Clemson.
As much as I want Clemson to win this one because I'm still not buying Florida State yet, but I'm going to go ahead and choose Florida State, despite the fact that I really want Clemson to do it. So. But I will put Florida State on upset alert. I will say, don't count Clemson out just yet. You never know, and I think this one could be the game that everybody should pay attention to when it comes to upsets.
All right, Ole Miss and Alabama.
Speaking of upset alerts, I'm putting Alabama on upset. I picked Mississippi to win this game. Oh yeah.
Would that even
you don't like it? I don't care.
Would that even be an upset for real?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it really an upset given what Alabama has been through this season already?
Because it's Alabama, it will be an upset. Just because it's Alabama.
Yeah, I'm going.
Period.
I honestly think that Nick Saban and Alabama are in too deep, so I'm going with Ole Miss too. Yeah, I don't think it'll be an upset. Exactly what it should be.
Yeah.
If Alabama loses this game, then we could really say that this Alabama dynasty is really done with.
Agreed.
And how crazy is it that this dynasty started and ended with the University of Texas?
Yeah.
That's a very valid point.
It's all circle. It always comes
It really does. It really does.
All right, and finally, our game of the week, Notre Dame and Ohio State. Chris, I don't think we got to ask you.
I don't know what you're talking about. I picked Ohio State. No. No. Come on.
Oh, no. See, here's the thing. Notre Dame is tough. I think that, Chris, you don't give them enough credit, especially when it comes to beating Navy the way they did. I really think that they're a lot stronger than you think. Ohio State, I think, has less to lose than Notre Dame, so I am going to go with Notre Dame on this one. But very, very close. I'm talking this game will probably end up in overtime because no team is going to give up so easily. But yet, I don't believe Notre Dame will fall, especially with everything on the line, especially the college football playoff. Because, like I said, there's no for the title. There's just winning.
And see, you say that, but with every team that I like, I always set the bar low. That way, I'm not too disappointed when they choke. So that being said, I've learned that being a Cowboys fan. We get screwed almost every year, especially when we play Aaron Rodgers. Not going to go into that right now. That's a whole different ball of wax. But it's like I said earlier. If they can beat Ohio State, they will officially have my attention, and I will pay even more attention than I already am. But I agree, it's going to come to either overtime or a last-second field goal.
Yeah.
It's going to be a close. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a close game, and I can't wait to see what happens.
I think if it comes down to a last-second win for Notre Dame, I don't see him beating either USC or Clemson, only because USC and Clemson are going to watch this game closely. I really do think they are, and you can't beat good teams like USC and Ohio State last second and thinking you're just going to ride easily into the CFP, because we've seen that with a couple of teams that they get these last second wins over really good teams and then they lose to an unexpected team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And not just that, but I like to think that if they do beat Ohio State last second, I'd be surprised if they go up more than 3 spots in the poll, straight up. Because if they move up higher than number 7, I'll be shocked. Because you're playing a good. Now, if they blow out Ohio State, which I don't see happening, but by some grace of God, that Notre Dame just blows out Ohio State by more than 2 or 3 scores. Okay, fine, move them up 3 spots. They earned it. But if it's a close game, it's a coin flip, and you either win convincingly or you don't win at all.
Yeah,
so
I'd give Notre Dame the 6th spot if they win this game. I don't think they'll go any further up because of the other teams that are playing. Oh no, I really think that if everybody does what they need to do, including like Notre Dame, then the Notre Dame will join the ranks of the others. Texas, Georgia, Michigan. But it's gonna be a good game.
But I do think the pressure is on Notre Dame. Yeah, they're playing in South Bend, but Notre Dame has a lot more to lose than Ohio State does. Like you said earlier, they don't have a conference championship to win or to even go for. Ohio State does, and they can, just like Alabama, they can rebound and get back in the hunt. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame loses this week, it's over.
Yep.
They'll be lucky to be in the top 10 the rest of the year at that point. So, but I still want the Irish to win. So, go Irish.
Yeah.
All right, we want to thank you all for joining us on Big Game Lineup presented by All Content Entertainment. Big thanks to our sponsors, number 6, Ohio State, number 9, Notre Dame, this Saturday, 6:30 on NBC. I'm Luke Caldwell along with Anthony Cruz and Christopher Fanning. Enjoy the rest of your week. Anthony, safe travels to Waco. All right, catch All Content Entertainment's weekly show, TNT, in right about an hour. I believe it airs at 9 p.m. on YouTube.
It does.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you, everyone.
You get to see my man DJ Zodiac whoop some ass.
All right, I'm excited to see this. I'm ready to already tune in.
You're also going to see the reason why you don't see my face on the show. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, and good night.